Hong Kong has a minibus route where people say something gets on, even when no one is there. Not a rumor, not an urban legend. Real passengers have watched the driver stop in the middle of nowhere, open the door, and speak to something they couldn't see. And the worst part, some of them realized they weren't alone on that bus anymore. Tonight's story comes from a man. Let's call him Akung. What he experienced that night made him quit taking minibuses completely. So before we begin, if you ever find yourself on a late-night minibus in Hong Kong and the driver opens the door for no one, don't look back. It was Saturday night. Akar had been out late in Mungo. The usual routine late dinner, a few drinks. He was escorting his girlfriend home. Let's call her Chloe. By the time they stumbled to the mini bus stop, the streets were pretty dead. The neon signs were buzzing, reflecting off the wet pavement. It had been raining. That kind of misty, annoying drizzle that makes the whole city look like it's sweating. A minibus finally pulled up. It was one of those red-topped ones. Akong and Chloe climbed on. Now, usually these vans were packed, but tonight it was pretty empty, including Akong, Chloe, and the driver. There were only 6 people on board. In the very front row, right behind the driver, sat an old man. You know the type, wearing a windbreaker jacket over a faded polo shirt, clutching a plastic welcome supermarket bag, staring straight ahead like a statue. In the row behind him sat a young couple. They were asleep, heads knocking together with the rhythm of the engine. Akarang and KH load up their octopus card for payment and moved to the back of the bus. They took one of the double seats by 3 rows behind others. That meant the entire back half of the bus, the rows behind them, were completely empty. Just rows of worn vinyl seats staring at their backs. The driver slammed the door shut in the usual aggressive manner before they were even seated. Wham! That heavy mechanical sound that seals you in. He punched the gas, and they were off. As they left the city lights behind, the route took them onto a long, winding stretch of road. This was near Dibble Road, not too far from Bride's Pool. The street lights out there are sparse. Those sickly yellow sodium lights that space out every few hundred meters. For long seconds, the inside of the pan would be dark, then flash, a burst of yellow light, then darkness again. A current was dozing off, listening to the hum of the engine, and then the van slowed down. It wasn't a sudden stop. It was a smooth, deliberate pullover to the shoulder. The gravel crunched under the tires. The bus came to a halt in the middle of nowhere. Akarn opened his eyes. He looked out the window. Nothing but trees and thick overgrown brush. No houses, just the bus stop at a dark mountain road. He whispered to Chloe, "Did the engine die? Is he checking the tires?" But Chloe squeezed his hand. Her palm was cold. "He's opening the door," she whispered. And she was right. He was. The driver reached out, pulled the lever, and the mechanical arm of the door swung open with a hiss. The humid night air rushed in, smelling of wet earth and ozone. A current leaned forward, looking at the driver. The driver wasn't getting out. He was sitting there, his hands on the wheel, staring out at the open door into the absolute darkness of the train. Silence, just the idling engine rattling the frame of the bus. Then the driver spoke, his voice rough and impatient. "Why? Hey, are you getting on or not?" Akang felt the blood drain out of his face. He looked at the door. There was no one there. No hiker, no stray dog, just an empty bus stop. Taking so dang long. Don't even know what you're waiting for, the driver mumbled to himself. He waited another 3 seconds or so, as if watching someone climb the steps onto the bus and then slam. He pulled the lever. The door shut. The driver put the van back into gear and accelerated. Akka looked at Chloe. Her eyes were wide, reflecting the terror that she felt. She leaned into his ear, her voice trembling. "Babe, did you see anyone?" "No," he whispered back. "I hope," she swallowed hard. "I hope he's just crazy. I hope nothing actually got on." They both instinctively looked at the empty seats. The bus still looked empty. The old man in the front hadn't moved the muscle. The couple behind him were still asleep. "It's fine," Akrung lied. "He's just tired. He's probably been driving for hours now. He's probably just seeing things." But the atmosphere in the van changed. You know that feeling when you walk into a room where people have been arguing? The air felt heavy, thick. The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees in seconds. The windows started to fog up. And then the sound started. It began faintly from the very back of the bus. Akong froze. It was music, but not radio music. It was Cantonese opera. High-pitched clanging percussions, but it sounded wrong. It was slow, too slow, like a record being dragged by a heavy hand. The chimes were off-key, sour, and underneath the instruments, there was a low, droning hum like a mournful moan. Ong squeezed his eyes shut and opened at them again. The sound still seemed to be getting louder. It was coming from one of the empty seats behind them. He looked at Chloe. She was trembling. She nodded. She heard it too. "Is it someone's ringtone?" she whispered. Maybe Somyeon dropped the phone back there. "Who the heck has a ringtone like that?" Akong hissed. "And why is it getting louder?" The sound was filling the cabino. Clang, clash, wailing strings. It was deafening to them. Akern looked at the front of the bus. The driver was casually driving. The old man staring Athai's knees. The couple was still sleeping. It seemed as if no one else on board was able to hear it. Only Akern and Khlo could hear it. "Don't turn around," Chloe begged, clutching his arms so hard. Her nails dug into his skin. "Kung, please don't look back there." Akung didn't want to look back there. He felt a prickling sensation on the back of his neck, like ice-cold breath blowing against his hairline. Music swirled around them, dizzying and nauseating. Suddenly, the sleeping couple in the front woke up. Maybe the motion of the bus woke them. Or maybe they felt the cold too. "CK Law, driver," the young man shouted. "Stop here. We're getting off." Driver lifted his left hand to acknowledge that he heard them and pulled over. Thank God. A stop. Normally. The young man stood up. He looked groggy. He stepped toward the door, turning slightly to check on his girlfriend. As he turned, his eyes swept across the back of the bus. He made eye contact with Akang. He looked bored, tired, and then his gaze slid past Akang to the seat behind him. Akang watched the color drain from this young man's face. It was instantaneous. His jaw went slack. His eyes bulged out of his head, veins popping in his neck. He made a sound and stumbled backwards, tripping over his own feet. He screamed. It was like he wanted to say something, but his mind was moving so fast that only sounds came out, not words. It was raw, primal fear. His girlfriend looked at him, confused. What is it? She turned to look where he was pointing. She screamed too, a piercing scream that shattered the silence. They wasted no time getting off bus. They both jumped off as fast as they possibly could and sprinted off into the night, screaming as they ran, not looking back once. The driver shook his head. "Crazy kids must be high on drugs," he muttered. He slammed the door shut and drove on. He didn't see whatever the couple saw. Now there were 4 people left on the bus. The driver, the old man, Akern, and Chloe. And the music was still playing. Akern was paralyzed with fear. He wanted to get off. His legs wouldn't work. Chloe had buried her face into his chest. She was sobbing silently. Then the bell rang. Ding, the bright red stopping light on the ceiling flickered on. Akong stared at the ceiling. No one had pressed the button. Ding, ding. It rang again, impatient. Ding, 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 ding. It was manic now. Someone was smashing the button, demanding to be let off. But they were on the highway. There was nothing here. "I heard you the first time," the driver yelled, looking into the rearview mirror. "Stop pressing it." "I'll stop at the next point." Driver Akon finally found his voice. It came out as a croak. "Driver, nobody pressed it. There's nobody here. Don't talk nonsense." The driver barked, watching the road. The bell stopped. The music stopped. Silence returned. But it was way worse now. The heaviness in the air was crushing. Akong felt the weight on the seat behind him. The springs of the bus creaked, shifting as if someone heavy was adjusting their position. K.H. Lowe wouldn't look up. Occurring turned his head, slightly looking towards the window on his right. It was dark outside, so the glass acted like a black mirror. He could see the reflection of the bus interior. He saw the dim yellow ceiling lights. He saw his own pale, sweaty face. He saw the top of K.H. Lowe's head buried in High's chest. And then he saw her hair. Chloe had shoulder-length hair. She had cut it last week. He remembered complimenting her on it. But in the reflection, the hair cascading over her shoulders wasn't short. It was really long, ragged, wet. It draped down over her back, pulling Gonto the seat. It wasn't K.H. Lowe's hair. Akong's eyes traveled up the reflection. The long black hair was coming from above K.H. Lowe's head. There was a woman. In the reflection, a woman in rotting gray robes was sitting on the top of the seat back, hunched over like a gargoyle. Her limbs were twisted, draped over K.H. Lowe's shoulders. Her face, pale, bloated, grayish-green, was pressed right on top of K.H. Lowe's head. She looked like she was hugging Chloe or merging with her. And in that reflection, the woman's eyes were open. Dark, hollow pits, and they were looking straight at Akern through the reflection. He couldn't breathe. He couldn't scream. He stared at the reflection, and the thing in the glass smiled, a slow widening of the mouth. "Don't look." The voice came from the front. It was the old man. Akern snapped his eyes forward. The old man hadn't turned around. He was still staring at his plastic bag, but he spoke clearly, calmly. "Young man, don't look at it. Don't speak to it. Don't let it know that you know." Akong squeezed his eyes shut. He gripped K.H. Lowe so hard it must have hurt. He started reciting every prayer he knew in his head. "Money bunny home. Money bunny home." "Driver," the old man shouted. "Please stop now." The driver slammed on the brakes. "What is wrong with you people tonight?" Theodore hissed open. The old man stood up. "Young man," he said to Aking, not making eye contact. "Get off now." Aking didn't hesitate. He grabbed K.H. Lowe and dragged her out. She was dead weight, her legs jelly. But he pulled her down the aisle, past the empty seats, past the old man. They tumbled out of the minibus onto the pavement, gasping for air. The humidity of the Hong Kong night felt like a blessing. The old man stepped off less. He turned to the driver. "Sifu," the old man said, his voice grave. "Drive straight back to headquarters. Do not look in your mirror. Do not stop for anyone else tonight. Go." The driver, sensing the genuine fear in the old man's voice, didn't argue. He slammed the door shut, and the minibus peeled away, tires screeching, disappearing around the bend. Acre, Chloe, and the old man were left standing under a flickering street lamp on the side of the road. Acre was shaking. He looked at the old man. "Uncle, what? What was that?" The old man lit a cigarette, his hands trembling slightly. "I saw her get on," the old man said, smoke drifting into the dark. "When the driver opened the door at the woods, she walked right in. She was loud, singing that opera." "Why didn't you say anything?" Chloe sobbed. "If you acknowledge them," the old man said, looking them dead in the eye, "they think you're inviting them in. I waited until we were near a major stop again for us to get off." The old man pointed down the road where the bus had vanished. "You two were lucky," he said. "That one, she was fierce. Usually they sit in the back. They sit alone. But that one, she was sitting right on top of you, young lady. She wanted to wear you like a coat." The old man flicked the cigarette away. "Go home. Burn incense. You should be fine." Akong and K.H. Lowe thanked the old Manas. They went their separate ways. Akong says he hasn't taken the minibus at night since. He takes the MTR instead, or he walks. But sometimes, when he's walking past the shop window at night, and he catches his reflection in the glass, he always thinks he sees something dark just out of the corner of his eye, hovering over his shoulders, waiting for the music to start again. The next time you're on a late night minibus ride in Hong Kong and you see an empty seat, maybe don't put your bag on it. Someone might already be sitting there. So, Hong Kong horror fans, what do you think happened here to Aking and Chloe? Please pause the video here and let us know your thoughts on this incident in the comments below.